Hey Amanda, it's June, which means that it's LGBT Pride Month. In honor of that, I thought that I would make another video on marginalized sexuality, this time focusing in on multisexual orientations. To begin with, multisexual is just a blanket term for people who are attracted to more than one gender. So it's got nothing to do with how much sex they have or how many people at one time, it's just the different genders. The three that I'll be focusing on are bisexuality, pansexuality, and polysexuality. Now, bisexuality is the one that's the most frequently heard of. The most widely used definitions of bisexuality are to be attracted to two or more genders, or to be attracted to your own gender and other genders. Now, pansexuality is attraction to all genders. It generally carries the connotation of being gender blind, which basically means that gender doesn't really factor into attraction. Polysexuality, not to be confused with polyamory, those are two different things, is an attraction to more than one gender, but maybe not necessarily every gender. There are a whole lot of misconceptions about the different multisexual orientations. One of the most common myths is that these orientations aren't real, that these people are confused or they're just greedy. And it seems to be a fairly popular public opinion that male bisexuals are just afraid to come out of the closet, and female bisexuals are trying to be more attractive to the boys. Of course, none of this is true. People can be attracted to multiple genders. Some people who are kind of confused or in a stage of figuring out their sexuality might identify as bisexual before deciding on straight or gay, but most people who identify as bisexual or pansexual or anything like that are what they claim to be. Pansexuality and polysexuality, along with other multisexual identities, are often belittled because people think that they're just bisexual and trying to be special. This, of course, is not true. Each identity has different connotations that it holds in general and to that person in particular. Because you might not understand what it means right off the bat doesn't make it any less. Furthermore, other people's identity signifiers are not for you, they are for them, for their identity. Moving along, there's also this idea that circulates throughout the gay and straight community that multisexual identifying people are tainted somehow by having associated with another set of genitals. For instance, lesbians who say that they would never date a bi girl because she's touched a penis. And of course, this is a problem for many reasons. Firstly, this is assuming a whole lot about a person's sexual experience. Just because you identify as a certain sexuality does not necessarily mean that you've had any sort of interaction with anyone. Even if they had sexual interaction with anyone inside or outside of their sexual preference, that does not define them. Defining somebody by their sexual experience is really gross and unacceptable. Moreover, this is also incredibly transphobic. Some girls have penises, some men have vaginas. It's a thing, and ignoring that is super problematic. Speaking of transphobia, there are also a lot of really dangerous misconceptions about why someone does or should identify as a multisexual orientation outside of bisexual. I've heard some people talk about reasons that someone would choose pansexuality rather than bisexuality as being bi means two, so that means only two genders are included. Therefore, that excludes trans people. And that is really problematic for a number of reasons. Firstly, that is not the only definition of bisexuality, as seen in the beginning of this video. Additionally, if they are only attracted to two genders, those two genders might not be boy and girl. You can be attracted to girls and non-binary folk. And lastly, if you think that attraction to only boys and girls as not trans inclusive, you are not considering the fact that trans men are men and trans women are women. The only reason that that wouldn't be inclusive of them is because you are assuming cis male and cis female. Basically, if you're arguing the semantics of the word and you deem it to be non-trans inclusive, it's not because the word itself is non-trans inclusive, it's because your definitions are not trans inclusive. Another misconception is that if you identify as multisexual orientation, then you must be attracted to all of the genders that you're attracted to equally. This is not the case at all. You can be bisexual and like girls a lot more than you like guys. You could be pansexual and seem to drift towards femininity more than masculinity. You're allowed to have preferences, and anyone who tells you otherwise is doing some super unnecessary gatekeeping and probably needs to step back a little bit. Another really problematic thing that people, especially within the LGBT community, try to say is that just because someone is in what appears to be a heterosexual relationship, the person who actually identifies otherwise is no longer a part of the community, or they are less gay than if they were not in a relationship. And this is completely ridiculous because you're not defined by who you're with or who you've been with. Your sexuality does not disappear when you become in a monogamous relationship. If you're a guy and you start dating another guy, it's not like you stop being gay and you start being demisexual or that person sexual. You're still gay. You're still attracted to guys. So if someone who's pansexual enters a relationship with someone of another gender, that doesn't mean that they're going to stop being pansexual. They're still there. They still exist. Water doesn't stop existing when it's not raining. That is a basic overview of some of the multisexualities. Thought about getting into some of the historical bits of it, but I didn't really have a whole lot of time to do that right now. Plus, I think that would probably be best to save until October. That's all that I have for today. Hopefully it's somewhat cohesive. And I guess I will see you hopefully on Friday.